Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I'm an author, idiot, and loin streamer, and today we're going to be returning to the generative AI because we've had some updates, we've had some new things, and I have some other items that I have collected over like the last month. So it's time to catch up. These videos start getting really long because I wait so long in order to do them, and then it's just everything all happens at once. So we're going to go through a couple of different things, and if you think that we're going to visit everyone's favorite proponent, YouTuber proponent of generative AI, you're correct, because we've got some serious issues to discuss, like all over the place. And it's immorality, it's illegality, it's humanity. Consider it whatever you will, how dramatic you want to be, but this is a deeper issue. This is a personal issue. But before we get started, number one, if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. The number one way to be featured is through Lemwy, the monthly prompt writing contest where I give you a prompt. You write a short story using that prompt, and the first Monday video of the month is basking in your guys' greatness, creativity, because y'all are creative as heck. Shout out to Abigail. The second way to be featured is if you are an indie author and you have a book out or a book that is coming out. If you submit the first chapter and the cover here, they will be read on the channel to hopefully kind of give a little teaser into the stuff that you are working on or the stuff that you have put together. And hopefully it'll help more readers find your work. Because you know what? No author can please everybody out there, but you never know how you're going to reach the people that you're looking for. And I try to use that to facilitate it to the best of my abilities, because my tastes are my taste and I might not be in your audience, but your audience is out there, or I could be in your audience. I found some great books through the Fresh Meat feature reading it. So you know what? It's true. And then the third thing is if you would like to check out any of my books, you can get them at any of your favorite places to get books, including the local library upon request. So with that said, let's get into the topic. And I know, another video about generative AI. Really sorry. I talk about what I care about here on the channel. That's why I pretty much started this channel. I never really had a place to say my thoughts or opinions or to get stuff out there. And I always felt like I just had to go along with it, especially as I got into the creative writing field, where then you had to be careful of the agents and what the agents thought, and made sure that you only put out the correct things, because you're not going to get an agent or a publisher if people don't like your opinions. And so I never felt like I had a place to express. And so I started this channel specifically to either talk about the books that I'm reading, whether I like them or not, just to discuss, because one of the most fun things to do with a book is to discuss the contents of the book with other people. The other thing is to talk about the creative industry, how it affects humanity, what is affecting people as a whole. But like, having been in the query trenches and having been to AWP and other writing conferences or into the writing industry, I wanted a place to talk about what I was seeing, because otherwise I was just all by myself. So that's why I started this. Storytelling and art are about more than selling product to me. It's passing on a piece of your heart, experiences, history through generations, and storytelling. We share, we celebrate, we show gratitude and sorrow, and teach. The arts are incredibly important in connecting people, generations, skills, locales, everything. And I won't stop talking about it or how it affects people. I am never going to stop sharing what I believe is important to share or to talk about or to put my thoughts out there. And they might be wrong sometimes, and that's fine. A lot of what I do on this channel is in order to get the discussion going or to share what I'm seeing, which is why I have the opinions that I have or the perspective that I have, which includes the positive. Because as much as I see that as negative or like doom inspiring, I am not hopeless. So I also want to put that out there. I might not have the right information all the times, and I might learn as I go. I might change my mind, but it's important to me to say what I see and what I'm thinking, and to hear from others for the same reason. I learned through exposure to other people, through perspective, but I also don't want the only voices out there on the subject to be the people who are openly abusing, cheating, stealing, and destroying while calling it a great thing. Because if the great just sit down and shut up because you can't stop it, then that's the only voice people see, and then others feel helpless, like they're the only people out in the ocean. So I am constantly going to be sharing what I think. And so if there are other people out there that feel like me, great. If there are other people out there who feel the opposite of me, that's fine. But I'm not going to shut up to just let one opinion conquer all and run over. And I think it's a manipulation tactic to try to get people to shut up, to okay it when it's something that you want to do, but they're against. I'm going to upset people with my opinions, and I understand that. That's pretty much the That's pretty much what happens when you share opinions. Even if you just say, I like waffles, somebody is going to find a problem with that and be like, well, what about pancakes? What about eggs? What about those that are allergic to gluten? Are you trying to say that you are against gluten people because you like waffles? There's so much subtext that people can just jump into. But I've determined that it's fine. If people are mad at me, I'm going to present who I am to the best of my abilities, which, granted, is not always great. I fail at it a lot. I fail at doing what I think that I'm doing a lot, and that causes a miscommunication. But I'm not going to ever be who other people want me to be, and I realize that. I'm never going to stand up to being the kind of person that people want to mold me into or craft me into. And they're going to get mad at me for not being the person they want me to be. And I'm sorry, but I just am who I am. And I try my best to present exactly who I am in the way that I think. And then you can choose whether or not to like me for that. It's a lonely place when so many will pretend to be your friend because they want something from you. But the moment that they realize that they can't get that thing from you anymore, they're gone. It's over. And whatever background you had is gone. And it might seem sad, but I've also met some really incredible people, and I look forward to meeting more incredible people through the exchange of ideas and the sharing of opinions. And it hurts when you trust somebody, give them the benefit of the doubt, encourage them, and then you discover that you've been continually slapped in the face, no matter what you did. And it is what it is, and that's how it is. But this brings me back to, why are we talking about AI? Because it bothers me, because it's something that I need to share what I see, and it's something that I need to talk about in order to, let's call it therapy. I've seen some things, I've got some things, I have some incredible, just like, what the heck am I looking at, that I needed to share with you today. So that is what we're going to do. Get ready for a long video because it is on. And we do have a video clip because one of these things includes everybody's favorite generative thief talking to George Alexopoulos, whose art I really enjoy. First things first, though, let's set the stage. From The Guardian: impossible to create AI tools like ChatGPT without copyrighted material, says OpenAI. And it seems like this was posted January 8th. I don't even remember if I covered this already, but I wanted to set the stage with this anyway, because constantly we see it popped up that, oh no, it doesn't train on copyright. There is no copyright infringement, but there is, even according to the creators of the programs that y'all are using. By y'all, I mean the AIBros. It does use copyrighted material. Just admit it. The fact that you can't admit it shows that you know something is wrong there and you are avoiding it. The developers of OpenAI has said that it would be impossible to create tools like its groundbreaking ChatGPT without access to copyrighted materials, as pressure grows on artificial intelligence firms over the contents used to train their products. Now, if you look at some of my earlier videos that I did on this, I've already pretty much covered that they are using copyrighted material. And there is a data set of books called Book Set 3 or something that has around 200,000 copyrighted books included in it, and it is well known and traded among these people, and it includes the copyright page on all of these books. So it's not really a hidden thing. Chatbots such as ChatGPT and image generators like Stable Diffusion are trained on a vast trove of data taken from the internet, with much of it covered by copyright, a legal protection against someone's work being used without permission. Last month, the New York Times sued OpenAI and Microsoft, which is leading inventor in OpenAI and uses its tools and its products, accusing them of unlawful use of its works to create their products. In a submission to the House of Lords Communication and Digital Select Committee, OpenAI said that it could not train large language models such as ChatGPT-4 model, the technology behind ChatGPT, without access to copyrighted materials, but they won't pay for it. Quote, because copyright today covers virtually every sort of human expression, including blog posts, photographs, forum posts, scraps of software code, and government documents, it would be impossible to train today's leading AI models without using copyrighted materials, said OpenAI in its submission, first reported to The Telegraph. It added that limiting training materials to out-of-copyright books and drawings would produce inadequate AI systems. Limiting training data to public domain books and drawings created more than a century ago might yield an interesting experiment, but would not provide AI systems that meet the needs of today's citizens. Responding to the New York Times lawsuit in a blog post published on its website on Monday, OpenAI said, "We support journalism partners with news organizations and believe the New York Times lawsuit is without merit. Previously, the company said that it respected the rights of content creators and owners. AI companies' defense of using copyright materials tends to lean on the legal doctrine of fair use, which allows use of content in certain circumstances without seeking the owner's permission. In its submission, OpenAI said that it believed that legal copyright law does not forbid training. No, it does not believe it. So we've gone over this a couple of times, like the 4 aspects of copyright law. And when it says training, what actually the fair use doctrine says is education. And education is something that a human can receive, not a machine. Training is feeding it into the machine to give it whatever it does. That is not education. That is not the same thing as education, and it is a violation of copyright law. But what matters more to show that this is not a case of fair use is how they openly talk about replacing humans. Because the 4th item on the fair use doctrine is the effect on the marketplace of the original piece. And this is trying specifically to devalue and or replace the artists that it is stealing from, which means it is a violation of number 4 on the fair use doctrine. New York Times lawsuit has followed numerous other legal complaints against OpenAI. John Grimson, Jodi Picoult, and George R. Martin among 17 authors who sued OpenAI in September, alleging systemic theft on a mass scale. See, and the big problem with this is because we've got huge companies that are funding this, and they are systematically and obsessively taking everything as quickly as possible from a huge number of people that cannot stop them. And so it is more so a matter of an inability, a lack of funding on the little people's parts to be able to sue and stop. And so it's going to require these corporations and wealthy people like George R. Martin and Jodi Picoult to push back, because that's much more likely for any smaller people that are stolen from. Going over to Twitter, we have Chomba Bupe saying OpenAI scrapes the entire internet, trains a model on a video data. The model fails to learn basic common sense physics, renders people, things floating, passing through obstacles, indicative of lack of understanding. People, all we need is more of this to achieve AGI. So people argue that, and you'll see it. It's going to be in this video's comment section too. Some will say that the PCs are learning the exact same way as humans do. They do not, because humans have discernment and humans can understand the logic or reason or whatever behind why things are the way they are, and computers cannot. The easiest example of this would be if I put 40 images in front of you. 20 of them are hands and 20 of them are cats. If 20 of them that are hands are all marked hands, but 10 of them that are cats are actually marked hands, the computer is going to read those 10 cats as hands because the label says hands. It can't discern anything but the data it's fed. However, if you give a human those 40 pictures, 20 hands, 20 cats with 10 of the cats marked as hands, the humans will look at the cat's marked hands and say that's wrong, that's a cat, because humans can discern, humans learn, humans know the reason behind what they are doing. Computers just repeat the data in which they were given. They don't know any better. It does not learn the same. And these companies are saying, let us absorb everything about people in order to try to imitate people in the means of a machine. It doesn't work. They are just trying to steal. Basically, this is a form of soul stealing. Like, that's going to sound ridiculous, but it's a form of soul stealing, and you'll see why as we get a little further into some of the images that I got here. Moving forward, we got Casey Gifford saying, let me get this straight. Let's say I uploaded a painting 13 years ago, back when OpenAI technology didn't exist. By uploading, I had somehow given my consent to all utterly theoretical concepts because I was trying to sell prints on DeviantArt to help pay the bills. And that's going into this person, Connor O'Kane, saying, for the same reason that human training doesn't infringe on copyright, you can't infringe on copyright unless you make a copy. If the AI goes on to make an exact copy of someone's work, then only at that point has it infringed copyright, not during the process. Actually, that's not true. It depends on how much of their item is used and if it's meant to replace the thing thing that they are copying. By publishing your work, you have consented to it being used in every possible way, including ways not yet invented that don't infringe on your copyright. If you don't agree with that, then don't publish anything. AI training does not infringe on copyright. So this guy is basically saying that if you share anything that you've made ever at any point, then you give up your rights to ownership of it. I would love to see if he believes that with CDs, because we're actually going to see this in a video with Shad, where Shad says, if you've ever put, I think he's actually said it before. I think Shad said this in the last video I did where he was included, that if you ever put anything online, then it is now legally owned by other people. And you can't say that this is not being done maliciously. This is not being done without them knowing that they fully know well what they are doing, what they have been doing for over a year now. And they've been lying to our faces to try to get away with it. They haven't. They've gaslit a couple of people, but they've been trying to get you to lay down. And here we have Vladimir Trilik saying, I went through your entire profile and uploaded all of your art into Midjourney so that it can be stolen from more efficiently. So admitting to it. If you stand up against them, and they've done this to people like Sam Yang, they've done this to people like Sakimi Chen, they've done this to anybody who actually, and they've done this to Reed Southern, they do this to whoever stands against them because they want to attack you and steal from you and hurt you. And they know that they're doing it. Go over here to the Libertarian Party. As soon as they just determine, you know what, we are stealing and we don't really care, this is where we get. Intellectual property is not property and should not be treated as such. Abolish IP laws. They do nothing but stifle innovation and create physical conflict where there was none to begin with. Not only is this incorrect, but it also shows a complete lack of understanding of what copyright laws are for, which specifically states the purpose for a copyright law is in order to innovate creation and to protect the creator from having their things stolen from them. But for some reason, people think, oh, you've created that? Well, now it's mine. Now it's public property because it exists. So recently, we'll get into this very briefly with the update to generative AI. Over last week, there was a release of something called SORA, which was a generative AI, theoretically, it's literally just a database of information, of stolen information. It's a generative AI video processor thing where you can theoretically, allegedly, put in a description of something and it'll create video of it. And so immediately, Shadlin the Conqueror started wetting himself, getting his rocks hard. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean about the idea of stealing IP. It's not even hidden. So if you want to pretend that generative AI isn't stolen IP, you fine, whatever. We've been through that. We've been through how that's a lie. But this is in no uncertain terms how little respect Shad has for people's property. He says, I'm going to make a proper live action adaptation of the Wheel of Time that's actually good and respects the source material. Can we talk about it for a second, just how cringe it is that he's got his face over what is supposedly the main character of this series and is super buff? Are we going to assume that his wife is going to be the heroine? Feels more like wish fulfillment to me. You are not respecting anybody. You are just stealing openly, happily, and playing pretend. Because you couldn't create something better. So what are you doing? Self-imposing your fantasies. And it's kind of ironic that somebody who's built that part of their newest direction by critiquing Star Wars for self-inserts is now openly bragging about self-inserting himself into someone else's work. But that is respecting the material. I hate to break it to Shadlin the Conqueror and everyone like him, but you are not respecting the source material if you are not getting the rights / the okay from the creator of the content in order to make the thing. Now, there's one thing that is the fan films or the fan content. There's another thing to say, I'm going to create something in somebody's world. I am going to take it and I am going to try to sell it without any consent. You're not doing it as a fan project. You're not doing it as as a respect to the original. You're saying, I'm going to take this, I want this. And it kind of just falls in line with what we've seen over the last couple of years, at least what I have seen. And it's these people don't care about these properties that they are freaking out about. When they talk about Star Wars, when they talk about Lord of the Rings being ruined, it's always, no, I want it, I want to control it, I want to make it mine. It is never about actually respecting the original material. It is just about ownership of the cultural icons, of the cultural relics. And I've mentioned that before too. Here is the same thing. It is a power play. It's they wish that they were Hollywood because they wish that they were in control. And if they were in control, then they would put all of their personal, political, and social beliefs into things and control things in the same way that they hate Hollywood for doing. And that's where we are. So while we're on the topic of Shadlin, I have a couple of things that I would like to address that he said in his debate that he had with a comic artist named Regan and with George Alexopoulos, because there are some really ridiculous things that I see that he is completely changing his opinion on, and other things that show just how much of a brainlet Shadlin is. Maybe he should put 4 bonds on thought or compassion, but you know. I know, that was not kind. That was, I apologize for that. That was unnecessary.
It's a meme. An image created by AI is just that. It's a JPEG. Is it art? No. Is every piece of art that's ever been made, like every JPEG that I can upload, I could do an illustration. It's not art. Not all JPEGs are art. Therefore, I don't see how a person generated something using a machine is able to call it art. In this same way, I could make a crap illustration, say it's art, or a banana taped to a wall, or a toilet in the middle of a gallery. Just because it's in a gallery doesn't mean it's art. It's junk.
You can think that.
Well, how far
you
does it
think
go
that-
back then, George? Like when you're saying if it was done by a machine, then it stops. So what about how far do you take that back?
Is the banana taped to the wall art? Is the
Do you have
Jackson
any
Pollock
equipment? Do you have any
painting?
equipment that you've used that's been made by a machine? Is everything made handmade? There's machine work in everything that people do in their lives. Like how far back do you take it? Where are you drawing the line?
Well, that actually
Agency.
So one thing that they continuously do here that is very disingenuous is, as you can see on the pro AI side, they say if you don't do everything completely by hand, then clearly it is the exact same thing. So not basically making and mixing your own paints suddenly is equal to the exact same thing as having everything done for you. You also have a situation where you're going to end up with moral relativism, and you're going to see it here. I have a second example further in the video where it is a description where it is a description that, well, you might say that, and you saw Shad say it just now in this video where George was saying that's not art, and Shad's going, to you it's not art.
Or it can be a stylus and the tablet, doesn't matter. He's manually making something and he's trying. It's the human effort that inspires me and pleases me. When we run through a machine to finish the piece for us, to simulate 10 years of practice, let's say, or let's use the 10,000 hour rule. I don't know if you guys have heard of this. They say to master any skill or to become very proficient, you have to spend 10,000 hours practicing, or 20,000 to become like a super master or something like that. Anyone who's got a pencil in their hand and is trying their best, I respect that. But if you're going to run it through a machine, your pieces of art, and say, that's an actual piece of art that I finished using skill, and that's just a damn joke, that word skill. It's not even on my radar as far as art is concerned. Now, if I may, to talk about the topic of is this going to hurt artists, I have something to say about that as well.
Sure.
Well, could I just respond to the comments up to this point before we change gears?
That makes sense. And then George will come back to you and we'll let you finish up, George. Okay, go ahead, Shad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find it disingenuous to invalidate skill development in technology if it's not handmade. Like George seems to only validate the development of skill if it's done by hand. When no, there's a massive skill component with AI art and with 3D modeling and stuff. This is not hand done art, but there is absolutely skill components. And
I think it needs to be said right now that he just equated using generative AI and doing 3D rendering. They are not the same thing, and mushing them together is the same thing as going sexual assault or harassment. They are very, very different. And the things that people would consider as harassment, which can even just be catcalling on the street, goes super, super far when you're also saying straight up sexual assault. And so mushing them together then pretty much makes you always capable of falling into that category. And he just did the same thing by saying, well, generative AI or 3D rendering. No. Have your thing stand on your own 2 feet.
You can even see my own progression in the level of AI works I'm able to produce. Like when I first started compared to now, I've gotten way better.
There's also this. He claims that he has gotten better, not the modeling. He doesn't consider the fact that they are updating the modeling, that they are inserting more and more data, that it has nothing to do with him when he puts in a prompt. He is not getting better at prompting. He is tricking himself if he truly believes that he is getting better via prompting.
Absolutely a skill component. And I respect effort, absolutely, but I don't discount effort just because it's done in a way that I disapprove of.
That's the other thing that he said, is that it takes certain skill to use generative AI. Is it not part of the arguments that I've heard over the last however long, the last year and a half, that this is democratizing art because art is too difficult for people to do? And now it's, oh, you have a skill? So which is it? Is it you have a skill or you don't have a skill? And then when they start talking about, well, there is a skill, and so then the people who know how to use generative AI skillfully are going to rise above the people that don't know how to use generative AI skillfully. So then it's not democratizing art because people are still creating a hierarchy of this theft to say that they will be better than the other thieves. So it's not better. You're just lying to yourself again and again and again in order to pretend that you are somehow better than the scum that your actions show you to be.
Right? If there's effort put into it, I think we can acknowledge that. And it feels like George is just trying to invalidate it because he just hates the medium, even though I don't think he would be being honest if he is acknowledging the effort, time, and skills required to make the best AI works.
It's not a medium. Number one, it's not a medium because a medium would be the form. The form would be music or poetry or nonfiction or literature or clay or marble sculpture, or, the medium has to do with that. Having a visual medium, which is actually an image, is not suddenly a different medium because you're generative AIing it. You're using products. You're using basically a Google search to then claim that you have created that thing because you thought up a Google search. This is something that blows my absolute mind too with these people, is they literally think that having a thought is somehow unique. They are the idea men. And I've seen this before generative AI happened, because you find it in creative circles and you find it wherever you go. I have friends who've done commission work that go to like conventions and they'll be approached by random people that say, I have this idea for this comic, but I need you to draw it. And everybody wants to be the idea guy. I saw this in the circles years ago with, I feel like it was on minds.com, where it was this thing where somebody was like, I want to be the pioneer of this group, where we are going to create just like a universe of things, and I will be the chairman of the universe. And so then we're going to get a bunch of writers and I will give you the ideas, and then you write my ideas, and then they will be public domain, but I will be the spearhead. I will be the person at the top giving all of you plebeians the ideas in which I tell you to create, and then I will get the credit for. Everybody wants to be the idea man. And I even see this now without going into those circles where people want to claim the ideas, where people bring to me their manuscripts. And this is no shade on anybody who is working on something, but the number of times that I see somebody say, this is my manuscript, and they go into the ideas behind the manuscript instead of actually what the story is about, or thinking that they are something special, I'm going to make you think, oh, nobody is writing stories about that are special, that are thoughtful, that are unique anymore, except for me. I'm the one that's doing it. I can't tell you how many times I have seen that specific mindset where they think the very act of thinking is unique to them, where they think the very act of putting in an effort is unique to them, and they should be rewarded for that. You're not special. And that's one of the reasons you're not special just for thought. And that's one of the reasons why I try to spread out what I can on this channel through, the fresh meat feature. And then when I read different books, and I might not be the audience for that book, but I'm still going to talk about it to share it. Because I can't solve everybody's problems when I write. I can't please everybody with the way that I write, and I don't even try. But I keep seeing these con men that think that they are the saviors of the universe. And it's what certain people on this platform and in the political sphere, the political opiners who have forced their way into art, have tried to do for the last, I don't know how long. But they go, Mainstream media sucks. Trust me, buy my book instead. Look, I can't fix your problems with mainstream media. I can only show you the stories that I have written, and I don't promise anybody is going to like any of them. In fact, I'm going to bet on people hating what I do, but I compulsively create, and I just want to share what I create, and I love what I create. And I love seeing what other people create, even if it's not necessarily for me. I would love looking at what other people create more if they didn't get mad at me when I didn't see what they wanted to see, but that's a different discussion.
George, we said we'd give you an opportunity to say what you wanted to say about this piece.
In 3D, there is different ways to model something. You could do a 3D scan. You can't say or take credit for modeling something if you're using a machine to take like a 3D model, whatever, of a person. If I model that person by hand, manually moving every faces, extruding, doing retopologizing, that's a lot of skill right there. That's art. It's great. But if you're using technical skills, there is some skill involved in using machines and knowing how to do a good scan, that sort of thing. Not the same thing, though. Not the same skill set. And it's not admirable to me to say I took a photograph of something and basically it's now in the computer. Not the same thing. But
well, that's reducing it down to an oversimplistic form that's not representative of what it is.
I mean, I've done both. You know, you keep saying, like, am I not an expert on these things? I can do all of
Not
them.
on AI art.
I don't need to use AI art, man. I can actually draw.
Well, you don't know the different levels that's required or effort that's put into different levels of AI art. And you've been reducing and belittling it down to just a cheat, a random slot machine that gets random results, when you're discounting a lot of other methods of using it, which takes heaps of skill and effort on the individual.
So while he's making this argument, he's also devaluing his own opinion in that because he doesn't know how to draw. I mean, he's started learning how to draw, but he's given up and he just shoves it into a machine to finish it for him because he doesn't want to figure out how to actually finish his own stuff. And so if he's going to get on George and say, you don't understand the difficulty behind this because you don't use generative AI, then Shad actually has no place to talk about creating art, period, especially traditionally, because he has no idea how to do it, because he doesn't have those skills. Now, I don't agree with that. I don't believe that. I think that you can observe, you can try things out, and you can see how it works, and then you can discuss. But I'm not the one that's sitting here making the conversation that you can't have an opinion on this because you don't do it. So obviously you are ignorant. And that's constantly what I see as the fallback for talking about generative AI and why it's not legitimate is they just go, you don't understand. You're just ignorant. You don't know. You don't know any better. You're stupid. And that's also a constant. I've seen it a lot in my comments too, with people that come in and just try to call you illegitimate and stupid and try to undermine whatever you're saying via instead of talking to you or with you about the subject, they want to undermine your perspective and make you look like an illegitimate person to even bother listening to. So you're ignorant. You don't know any better. You're completely out of touch with whatever, instead of actually discussing the issue.
While we're talking about individuals, we were saying that it's going to hurt jobs and that sort of thing. And I want to use an example that we found. I got a quote here. DreamWorks co-founder Jeff Katzenberg says AI will cut costs of animation for movies by 90% within the next 3 years. He said, in the good old days, you might need 500 artists and years to make a world-class animated movie, Shrek or something. I don't think it will take 10% of that 3 years from now, end quote. So these are jobs. Let's say you can have AI do in-between frames. You got a few master artists and animators doing keyframes, but then the AI will do all the in-betweens and all the grunt work that you would have given off to like an intern or someone like a junior artist. But that's valuable experience they could be gaining so that they could become a keyframe artist or a high-level artist. If those people aren't getting paid to do professional work, they're not gaining the experience. They have to find jobs in other professions. So we're going to see, I think, as these companies start cutting costs for artists, they're going to be pocketing all the profits. Meanwhile, a lot of people, like in the traditional years, like say a Carl Barks who did the Donald Duck books, even in his 30s, he had to start at Disney as an intern, basically doing in-between frames for old Disney cartoons. And the way that you would start in those companies is you have to start at the bottom, doing the grunt work that nobody wants to do, the tedious stuff. But then they would gain the skills to become lead animators. And that's how you create a healthy ecosystem, say 20 years down the road. You're training people to do stuff that maybe nobody wants to do, but instead now you're handing that off to an AI that doesn't cost very much at all. I think that's going to kill many, many jobs, and I will not participate in the destruction of my profession.
That's something that Shad really doesn't understand. And I see that same thing with a lot of people that are not part of the creative industry. They hate creativity. They hate the prospect of having to practice, to learn, to get better, because they just want results, which is what Shad wants, which is what other AI bros want. And it's the destruction of the industry, the destruction of learning, because learning, mastering, picking up these crafts does take time. It takes repetitive work. And a lot of people may not want to do the grunt work in the same way that, like, when you're starting out exercise, you really don't want to feel the pain of building those muscles at first. And then once your muscles start getting stronger, obviously it stops hurting as much. And then you start recovering faster and all of these other things. Same thing happens here. Is you start somewhere so that you can build in the industry. You can build the experience. And what Shad is a proponent for by wanting to get rid of the lower level jobs, of the drawing between the frames, is pulling the ladder up on artists who are willing to do that work, to get into the industry, to build that skill. Because guess what? By doing those between frames, you draw again and again and again, and you learn consistency, and you learn anatomy, and you learn how to do this work, and you get better and better and better, and you initiate, you turn on that creative thing in your brain. I know that over the last year and a half, especially because I picked up drawing again at the end of 2022, and I have been drawing mostly nonstop since then, that I have been able to picture things better since I've started drawing again. I've been able to discover characters in ways, in brand new ways, and the characters come through so much in the way that you draw. It's amazing that sometimes you have to draw a couple different times, the character a couple different times, in order to discover that personality. And like, I could show you pictures of all of the characters. Even the early Michi drawings don't have Michi's personality until I really discovered her, and then she started coming out. Like the first and the second picture of Michi didn't have her personality. The twins didn't have their personality. Sometimes, you know, Marcella's design is so obvious, but you can see when her personality is there and when it's not. And by drawing consistently, you build these skills, and you build in that department, and you build your mental library, your creative library, and go into these skill sets. And these people want to talk about, like, Shad has built at least one of his channels on the idea that current creativity is bankrupt. And he wants to bankrupt it further, pull up the ladder, and say newbies are not allowed to learn. Why? Because he is too lazy to learn, because he is too lazy to practice. He wants to say, nobody should do this anymore. I am going to steal from the legacy. I'm going to steal from things that are already made in order to boost me forward. And I think that we should shut the door down, so anybody who wants to do that, who wants to create a business from this, should not be allowed to, unless they are the cream of the crop, which is what he constantly says in these discussions also, is that the cream of the crop will float to the top. So he wants to smash everybody learning. He wants to smash down everybody who is not whatever he considers to be worthy of selling. And he is the one determining what the cream of the crop is. He doesn't care about the creative industry. He doesn't care about the arts. He doesn't care about the young artists, the baby artists, the people coming up. You also see this, I see it in my comment section, where people think the only reason that you would defend against generative AI is because you want to sell your art, or you think that you're competing with them. They cannot imagine growing that mentality. They cannot imagine failing. They cannot imagine putting something out there that might be kind of embarrassing to look at, which is one of the things that I've been trying to do with sharing my art progress, which a lot of my art, most of my art is not great. I'm still in the learning area. I'm not trying to sell it. I just want to better express the ideas that I have, the characters I have, and to show what I see in my head. But people don't understand that if you're creating art and you're not trying to sell it, they don't understand that you could be against this. They don't understand trying to help hold other people up, to help other people pursue, when all they focus on and all they worship is money. When all they focus on and all they worship is dominance, cultural dominance. This whole culture war garbage is one of the worst things to happen to art in the last 15 years. And it is entirely pushed by political parties, because art is not inherently political. Can it be political? Sure. But you get ideology, you get background, you get hope, you get all sorts of human experience items within a story. And can it be political? Yes, because human existence deals with issues that people turn political. But is art inherently political? No, it's not. Until you make it a culture war. And now it's an us versus them. And now it's a we need to crush them. And that includes taking from them these cultural relics so we control them. It has nothing to do with making anything new. And as they call the culture entirely bankrupt. And then every single one of these people goes, the West is bankrupt creatively. This is why manga is better. None of you are creating. None of you are making. Instead, you focus on what other people are doing and what you can steal and how to build yourself up by dragging other people down.
It's funny that he just says most people love slop, all right? If that was the case, Marvel would be doing great right now. It's not the case. People want quality. And if you give them quality, it's going to be made with AI art. They're not going to care. And so if it's all slop, the artists have nothing to worry about. No jobs are going to be sold because no one would want it. And so you're in a complete hypocritical position here. Either AI can make great quality stuff that people are going to want, and then it probably will threaten a lot of the low tier, low effort artists out there, or it's the opposite to that.
It's funny he can only see low tier, low effort when he is literally low tier, low effort. He just sees a high quality output and thinks that that equals high effort. It does not. He completely steps on and insults learners, beginners, not mediocre, but like mid-level, people who are learning, because he only sees the completed. He only sees it being worth it if it is this certain output specifically, not about anything else.
The people who dedicate their lives to their craft will continue to have, I don't know, some success. I wish the best for them. I've been struggling to find work, even with my skill set, let's say. I don't think I'm the best artist. But it's really hard to find work out there, especially when the market's saturated with junk.
Maybe if you're willing to work with people who use, AI references.
I will never work with anyone that uses AI. You know this.
Well, that's probably why you might be struggling to get work.
No, the reason I'm struggling to get work is...
Look at how cocky he looks and he's going, well, you're gonna freaking get in line with me or else you're gonna suffer. Again, this kind of falls in line with the thing that we've seen where so many in the culture war space say they want you dead, homeless, and poor or whatever. That's literally what he's doing. Dalen the Conqueror over here is saying, get in line with what I believe, get in line with what I'm telling you to do, behave for me, dance for me at the price that I determine for you, or else get poor and die. That's...
because I get pulled off of like platforms like Patreon, but that has nothing to do with who I work with. There's people who want to work with me, Shad. You understand?
Okay.
I will not work with someone who uses it because they don't understand or appreciate what actual art looks like. If someone hands me a prompt and says, draw an image like this.
So hang on. They don't appreciate art if they use AI art?
George, go ahead, finish your thought.
Why is he so smug about being a complete idiot over here? No. If you prompt, you do not understand. And I say this as I commission people regularly as I can. And in order to properly commission people, I'm not putting in a single sentence. I'm not just describing a hair color and a dress. I'm describing personality. I'm describing a background. And then the artist will interpret all of this background information into the images that are created. It is so much more than putting in a brief description. So yes, Shad, people like you do not understand art, do not understand storytelling, and it shows in your imagery, it shows in your shortcuts, and it shows in your novel, where you just think 4 times harder than everybody else, and suddenly you have magic powers that can give you telekinesis at 75% of the way through because you have the magic to solve everything.
Just saying, I will not work with a client who hands me a piece of AI art and says, basically draw over this, launder this, so it's not AI art, and put your name on it. And let's assume, like if someone gives me a Van Gogh and says, repaint this, and then we'll say you did this.
But they're not going to ask you to do that. But they're not going to ask you to do that, and you know it. They might give you a reference.
People have done that, though.
Say, here's a reference of what they want the character to look like.
I don't work that way. When I'm drawing a piece of art and I want to deliver something to the people, I would rather give them one good book a year that's passionate and filled with my own research, and the art is rich with my own experience, versus something like if I put out 10 books that the art is just half generated by a computer. I think that's an insult to the audience. I don't even want to sell them that. I would rather have less money for one good book than make a ton of money from 10 crap books.
That is one reason why if I find out or if I know that somebody has created something with a generative AI, I will not touch it. If I also see somebody that is rapid releasing because they just quickly put together stuff as much as they can and they do not go through it a second time, like this is going to be a personal taste thing for me. I don't trust creators that say they only edit in place. They only go through their book once. Why would you only go through your book once? Especially as an indie author. I feel like it's an insult to the readers to not go through your book multiple times if it needs it. And then if I read your book and I found out, I see some things earlier on that didn't get changed for later, it's an insult. If I see that you only went through your book that is 260,000 words long and you only went through it once, I think that it's an insult to readers. Because you could not even be bothered to go through your own book a second time. And for what reason? Because you wanted to get it out as fast as possible to profitize on some trend? So, like, I have personal lines that I will draw, and that includes if you use generative AI, the story wasn't important enough for you to figure out. You're not going to read it. You're not going to do anything with it. The same, I will not pick up something that if I know that it is ghost written for a similar reason. Is when I pick up a book, when I get into a story, I want to see the artist. I want to see the ideas, the person behind the world that is created. And the more distance there is, the more it's like a product, the less I want anything to do with it. And there's places for commercial fiction, for commercial things. But I personally find mass production just for the sake of making money to be an insult to the audience. And let me know if you feel the same way or if you've got a similar thought or even if you have a different thought. But I'm thinking, do you think that DC and Marvel have been better for mass producing Marvel and DC videos, movies, whatever, the last couple of years? Or do you think that they could have done better if they took their time with a story instead of rushing one out every 3 months?
Yeah, a lot of straw mans and, reductions.
You keep
in
saying that,
because-
dude. Can you just
Because
accept?
you're doing it.
You're talking
because-
to an expert, dude. It's
Yeah, I
not a
don't care.
straw man.
So this is what you were straw manning, right? You were trying to say that the 10 books would be less quality.
Yeah, faster books. drawn-
You've automatically reduced the quality of them because it's done by AI.
You guys, all right. Can you agree that faster books generally are drawn more poorly?
Not with AI. They can produce awesome looking art that's better than a lot of mid-tier
They're not
artists.
drawn though. That's the problem.
They're
Doesn't
rendered.
matter to the audit. Doesn't matter if it's quality. People will want it.
I know.
The argument wasn't about whether they would.
I have to take a second on that one specifically because over here with Paloma McLean, it's funny when AIBros make the argument that most people don't care about how something is made, just the results. It just feels like a massive projection. Let's be real. If Gen AI content was clearly disclosed online as AI, I bet the average person would be way less interested. So if it is something that people are not that concerned about, then why do they constantly try to hide the fact that it is made with generative AI? Why do they constantly put their name on it and then try to show that it is not made with AI?
Drawn or not, it was about the speed and the efficiency of them coming out.
Are there any examples of this? Like, do people actually buy that crap?
Oh, I'll see myself because I'll be producing some. And
I'll put it this way.
But all
Shad.
right, actually, no, there is Palworld. Palworld was accused of using AI things, and it isn't even determined if it is or not. But there was a lot of accusations that Palworld used a lot of AI assets, and guess what? People didn't care.
So that is a poor argument to make. Now, I'm not super educated on Palworld, so feel free to let me know in the comments down below what you know. Some other people that I have talked to said that it was determined that it was not using generative AI to create the items in it, the elements in it. And if it was, Nintendo is usually pretty lawsuit happy and would have gone for it. So let me know what your thoughts are on that. But the fact that he goes, well, it's not determined whether it does or not, but the thing is people don't care. That's because there's no determination on it.
They're going to get an awesome Captain America movie that they've wanted. And someone made a great Marvel film with the characters we love, Captain America, and it was made with quality and affordable, hand-drawn stuff. That's always going to be there. But for the most people, right, for just the market in general, they don't care. You give them a good product that's quality and affordable, they will love it. Like, we've been getting slop from Disney, crappy Marvel movies. If someone made a great Marvel film with the characters we love, Captain America, and it was made with AI, people are not going to care. They're going to get an awesome Captain America movie that they've wanted, and the fact that it was made with AI isn't going to mean spit.
Like the scripts where they're saying it's so bad it must have been written by AI?
It seems like AI could do a better job than their current scripts made by humans.
How about we have talented humans do it instead?
You need a
I would love
talented
that.
human to be able to guide it.
Oh, yeah.
So we don't want AI. I agree in the arts.
No. You need a talented human to work with it to get the best results.
How about we don't use it at all and just have talented humans do the work?
Because we'll get awesome products, and it makes it accessible for more people to make great AI.
AI sucks though.
To you.
That's
There's so much in this interaction right here. Number one is Shad is like, okay, it's about stealing from other people. It is literally just, I want to take Captain America and make it. I am angry about what you did not making Captain America for me. This is the same sort of perspective in the representation garbage that says, make it for me or else it belongs to me and I should be able to do what I want with it. Then we get to a section where it's, well, what if we just had talented writers writing these scripts? And Shad argues against the idea of talented writers. He does not believe that there is such a thing as talented writers. He thinks that whatever his limitations are, because he's got a brain block, because there is something going on where he sits down and he's like, I have to have a computer finish my thoughts for me. So obviously there is no such thing. It's no wonder. For some reason, it makes me think that he believes that there was no actual good art up until sometime last year. Because generative AI didn't exist. What the heck did people do to create fantastic art before generative AI could finish it for them? Because he can't even just admit with George that maybe just hire a bunch of good writers. There's still a human element involved with generative AI. I don't understand what he is arguing here against just having good writers, how you don't need to have a generative AI involved in order to create good art. In fact, you don't need a computer involved at all in the creative process for this, but he can't admit to it. He has to have, well, it's going to have a person and a generative AI. Is that because he needs training wheels? He needs the booster seat in order to sit in the artist's chair, because artists don't need that to do something. Artists don't need that to learn the skill. Artists don't need to have their work completed for them. I would rather have a bunch of spelling errors in my work than to put it through generative AI for generative AI to technically correct it and then change things that I wrote. Because generative AI does not work to maintain your personality, to develop your skill, to keep your characters. It reduces it to the status quo, which is apparently what Shad wants. So that's specifically right there where he cannot even fathom the idea of creating without these machines finishing his thoughts for him, was just something that I thought was incredible insight. And that brings me back to this, where he's not talking about, I'm going to make Shadow of the Conqueror, I'm going to make Wheel of Time. He's stealing somebody else's work on every single way. And that's what this is about. Moving on to, I know, that was the long segment. Moving on over here to read something. Can we talk about how Stability AI gets around opt-out by just naming their models differently? They allowed opt-out of Stable Diffusion 3, but they never released it. And instead, we now have Stable Diffusion XL and Stable Cascade. Absolute scam. Going over here, Steam's new AI rule will open the floodgates to a river of shite. For the last 6 months, Valve has kept a tight grip on the release of AI games, and more accurately, games developed using some aspect of machine learning. In July of 2023, Valve said that games made using machine learning content were being denied a spot on the store, mostly because there are some legal uncertainties relating to the data used in training AI models. In other words, there are huge legal uncertainties surrounding the data used to train AI, since so much of it was scraped from copyrighted works without the artist's or owner's knowledge or consent. Despite these uncertainties being far from resolved, they've been in headlines just this week when OpenAI said it was impossible to train without copyrighted materials. Valve have today decided to say screw it and just let most games be released anyway. In a blog post, the company says they needed some time to learn about the fast-moving and legal murky space of generative AI technology. Over those months, they've learned that it's fine or fine enough for Valve to start making money off games made using machine learning content. Here are a few important parts of the blog covering the rules Valve have implemented to try to cover their buns. Pre-generated. Any kind of content created with the help of AI tools during development under Steam distribution agreement, you promise Valve that your game will not include illegal or infringing content, and that your game will be consistent with your marketing materials. In our pre-release review, we will evaluate the output of generative AI content in your game in the same way that we evaluate all non-AI content, including check for that game meets those promises. Live generated. Any kind of content created with any help from AI tools while the game is running. In addition to following the same rules as the pre-generated AI content, this comes with an additional requirement in content survey. You will need to tell us what kind of guardrails you're putting on your AI to ensure that it's not generating illegal content. Valve will use this disclosure in our review of your game prior to release. We will also include much of your disclosure of the Steam store page for your game so that customers can also understand how the game uses AI. Second, we're releasing a new system on Steam that allows players to report illegal content inside of games that generate live generated AI content. Using the in-game overlay, players can easily submit a report when they encounter content that they believe to have been caught by inappropriate guardrails on AI generation. So possible. There are still a lot of guardrails, but possible, not great. Then we have author admits she used ChatGPT to write parts of her award-winning novel. January 18th, the author of the prize novel about artificial intelligence admitted to writing parts of the book using ChatGPT during her acceptance speech. Ria Kudan, a Japanese author, estimated that around 5% of her book, The Tokyo Tower of Sympathy, was taken verbatim from ChatGPT, which means that it was taken from somewhere else verbatim. The work was awarded the prestigious Akutagawa Prize for Promising New Writers on Wednesday night, with one of the judges lauding the work as flawless. I made an active use of the generative AI like ChatGPT in writing the book, Ms. Kudan said in an acceptance speech. I would say that about 5% of the book quoted verbatim the sentences of generative AI. She added that she often confides in the program with thoughts that she can never talk to anyone about, and that some of these responses inspired dialogue in the book. The Tokyo Tower of Sympathy is set in a futuristic version of Japan where AI is a center part of everyday life. It centers around an architect who designs a comfortable high-rise prison but finds herself struggling in society that seems excessively sympathetic to criminals. The work is flawless and it's difficult to find any flaws, said Shuichi Yoshida, a member of the judging committee. It is highly entertaining and interesting work that prompts debate about how to consider it. AI has proved highly controversial among writers and creative industries, with critics saying that it will diminish original work in favor of cheap copy recycled algorithms. True, a month-long strike in the U.S. by the Writers Guild of America, which caused TV and film productions to grind to a halt, was partially caused by concerns around using this technology. Unions claim that studios will use AI to create early drafts of scripts with screenwriters, then hired for a lower rate to bringing them up to standard. So this is all just in place to, one, lower the amount that they pay actual artists to do the work while stealing from others and laundering work. As George talked about in that video, like if somebody brings to you a generative AI image and then just says, hey, color over this however you want, trace over this, and then we'll call it yours. It is to launder creative work and to get around paying people to pull up the ladder. The FTC has issued a warning to AI companies that changing their terms of service quietly and deceptively, saying that it could be against the law. This is exactly what Midjourney did when I was looking at their infringement and plagiarism. They should be investigated. So we have these companies acting inappropriately, passively, quietly, knowing what they are doing. Here is an image of that. As Reed Southern says, you may not use the server to try and violate the intellectual property rights of others involving, including copyright, patents, and trademark rights. Doing so as a subject may subject you to penalties, including legal actions and a permanent ban from the service. And no update from that. Reed Southern says, adapt or die. Tell me, how does one adapt to this when you are stealing? Again, look at how Shad was being giddy about locking out people, the next generation, from learning. You're telling the youth, the young adults, the young professionals that want to come into this business, sorry, you're garbage. You're always going to be garbage. Give up. And why is that? Because this 40-year-old man refuses to learn to draw. He wants to take the opportunities away from you. People who think that AI is going to be an infinite money printing machine for everyone never took an economics class to learn what inflation is. You're being sold a lie. That's an interesting way to look at it, because it is money printing. Quote, I work as an illustrator for a company that hires 1,000 plus illustrators. They've just announced that they will be hiring an AI illustrator manager who will be paid significantly more than every single one of those illustrators to create work that will inevitably make our roles obsolete or much reduced. My heart breaks for the industry. There is no adapt or die. It is laundering, and it is pulling up the ladder from young professionals. Okay, so I mentioned earlier, it only took us about an hour to get here, that earlier this last week, there was a release of something announcement called SORA, which is a database of images, videos that can be then prompted to show AI video, AI generated video. Which we've known that this was coming, considering we've had other situations like the news reports going on that was entirely generated by AI. I saw something earlier that had this section here saying it was being copyright struck on YouTube for content that is being taken. This is not coming out of nothing. That's the lie that some people are buying, that this is coming out of nothing, and it's not. It's coming out of data collected. These are all from somewhere. You just haven't seen it yet. Over here from the last call, we have a clip by Justine Bateman.
Deal valuing the company at $80 billion, according to the New York Times. That means, my friends, that OpenAI's valuation has tripled in less than 10 months. Tripled in 10 months. The news comes as OpenAI's newest tool, SORA, making huge waves across tech and media. But as OpenAI prepares to release this game-changing tool, where exactly does Hollywood fit in? Remember, actors and writers spent months on strike fighting for safeguards against AI. What does this mean? By the way, the image on the right, the man with the glasses, that is completely fake. It is completely invented. That image on the right, completely fake. For more, let's bring in director, writer, and producer Justine Bateman, who really led the charge about AI during those summer months and the strike. And we showed a lot of these images, Justine. Welcome back to the show yesterday. And we immediately thought, what the heck is this going to mean for Hollywood?
Well, like I started saying about a year ago, there's a series of things that are going to occur. And if people go to credo23.com/AI in film, they can see the list of things. And you can start checking things off. Yeah, that's fake. It's not, it's beyond fake. That is an amalgamation of a bunch of images and footage that they stole from artists. Plain and simple, generative AI is complete and utter theft. And it's being used by people who are trying to increase their profit margins and get rid of the overhead of using humans.
So you're suggesting, and guys, can we run that? I don't know if we could run the video. We showed some fake pirate ships, some AI-generated pirate ships meant to kind of look like there we go, that's it. So what you're suggesting, Justine, I think, is that these images of the pirate ships or a guy reading a book or a monkey are actually just aggregated from real things that AI has scraped, and thus in that way they are, in a sense, stealing.
I'm not implying it. It's fact. Generative AI doesn't function without consuming a bunch of material, a bunch of data. So you want to write a book, it's got to consume a bunch of books. And it's like putting it into a blender and it chops it up and gives you a Frankenstein spoonful based on your prompt. So all the films that have ever been done, all the books that have ever been written, all the music that's ever been made, that's all put in there. Every video you guys ever posted online of your family, all the pictures, all the legal work that anybody's done in a law office, it's all put into these blenders and spits this out. So this is complete theft, and it's being perpetrated by people who want to just make a lot of money and not have to pay any, labor overhead.
And that's what it is. And that's also why you look at stuff like Shad saying, I'm not going to hire an artist next time because he wants to maximize his money while stealing from people. That's all that it is. It is laundering experiences. It is laundering labor from the creators of that content and then saying, well, you don't know where I got it from, so you can't claim that it's stolen. If I take if I take photos, if I take paintings from another country, bring them here, and then claim that I painted them, you have no way of knowing that I did not paint them. That doesn't make it theft because you don't know the source of that painting. Here we have, I think this guy is a fake. I think he's just trying to outrage bait for money because he is so stupid and he's verified and he is just saying exactly the kind of stuff that's going to get baited. So I think that's one of the worst things with the monetization of Twitter is people are literally pushing terrible ideas in order to make money for themselves at the risk of other people. Like, because people are genuinely believing them as they push stuff. So this guy says, I don't know what to think, but this seems a bit unfair to me. My original post with Sayori Kido Athena prompt has 4,000 impressions, while this other person's post has 30,000. So person is complaining that the thing he prompted and then posted got less, and then somebody stole the image that he posted. Somebody took the image that he posted and got more impressions. So is that not about clout chasing and awards for things that you did not do? Over here with Reed Southern posting the conversation, I'm so excited for all the different ways that I'm going to steal stuff. If you look down at Chris Harden CPA, think of all the amazing possibilities. Feed in a Harry Potter or some other book that you love and watch it without all the Hollywood snip. I'm so excited. That's not respectful to the content. What happens when an author sells their book to Hollywood to be made into a movie is that they are paid for that effort, for the time that they put, the craftsmanship, everything that they put into that book. They are paid for that effort, whether you like the story or not. And so what this ends up being, and you see it with Shad, and you see it with all of the people that constantly only reference Marvel, DC, Lord of the Rings, Amazon, who refuse to go and look at what other people are creating, is they are openly saying, I am fine stealing stuff because I don't like what other people are doing. I am fine with taking it, and I don't want to pay the author. I don't want to credit or pay or give respect to the person whose item I appreciate, whose work and efforts and perspective I appreciate. I am just going to take it for me. How about funding that movie if you want it to be put out there? Rebound Multimedia says you are not entitled to a job as an illustrator, and you are not as original as you think that you are. That goes for any artist. We are all derivative, 12 notes to a scale, so to speak. Originality comes from the amalgamation of existing things put together to make something new. Originality comes from your soul. You bring the perspective, and it is amazing that these people think, oh, you're not entitled to actually, own your art and not have other people claim it and not have other people make what they want out of it. I sit down and write something. Sit down and see how difficult it is to create, to build the skill that you need to express the things that you are trying to express. It's easier to see your failure in visual mediums as opposed to literature, since literature you have to look at it as little pieces, and visual mediums you can see as a whole. It's also pretty amazing to me that the defense of these people that want to steal your artwork is them saying, you are not as original as you think you are. Look, you might have made something, you might have created something, but you know what? We're all derivative, so I should be able to steal from you because you're not creative. Sounds a lot like projection to me. And you're telling me that people are not entitled to the labor that they spent so much time on to build that skill, to be able to do that, all of the self-doubt, all of the self-insult, everything. And who is the entitled one here? The person that says, I would like to be able to keep my labor and to be able to be paid for my labor, or the one that says, no, it's mine now, and I should get it, and you're entitled for thinking that you deserve to be paid for the things that you made? Further down here, constantly with the lack of compassion. Cry harder. Give me everything for free because I have an idea, the best ideas, but don't know how the pencil works, and I really, really want to make my own Batman mom. Again, it's the people that think that they are so special for having an ideas, and I'm just like, how disconnected are you? How much of a superiority complex do you have that you think the act of having an idea, a single idea, a string of descriptive words that aren't even a sentence, somehow makes you unique, above everyone else, the one that should be bossing everyone around? Over here with Benjamin BLM, we have, I want someone to notice that this case was taken through a small civil court by a person who felt misled by a product. Companies adopting AI recklessly are banking on nobody punishing them for it. They are a lot more legally vulnerable than people think. So keep this in mind as you go forward, because this is going to be one of the ways that you fight back against generative AI. Air Canada must honor a refund policy invented by airline chatbots. So if interact with an AI machine that tells you one thing, and then a human tells you that it's wrong, push them on it, because they are enacting these things and then saying that the AI is in charge of itself as a way to deflect responsibility. But they are not above responsibility. According to Air Canada, Moffat never should have trusted the chatbot, and the airline should not be liable for the chatbot's misleading information, because Air Canada essentially argued that chatbot is a legally separate entity that is responsible for its own actions, a court said. Experts told the Vancouver Sun that Moffat's case appeared to be the first time in Canada a company tried to argue that it wasn't liable for information provided by its chatbot. So they're going to instill this stuff, fire humans that can actually discern information and follow policy, and then say, it's not our fault, we didn't do it. Hold their feet to the fire. That's how you fight back. And remember what this all comes down to. This is an important piece to remember, especially when you're listening to people like Shad and Grant say, this is just about democratizing things. This is just about to spread it all. It's really not. The thing that strikes me the most, according to Radinsky, and I've talked about this before in previous videos, I've even covered this article in previous videos. Why do we feel the need to replace the human medium, the median human? What is the vision here? What's the plan, the implications, the future you want to build, and why? Why would you want a future that is less humanity in it? And this is why I call it evil. Anything that is anti-human is evil. You are deliberately trying to destroy human expression. You are deliberately trying to destroy human interaction. And that is evil. I don't have any other way to say it. Scrolling down, this references tech bros like OpenAI's Sam Altman keep obsessing about replacing the median human with AI. If you look back in the backlog of my generative AI videos, you'll see that I covered this article specifically where his goal is to remove humans and to make humans in general obsolete. And it says median human, but in his discussion of this thing, he even includes doctors. So a doctor is still considered a median human. What does that mean for everybody else? He wants to get rid of people. He hates people. Over here with Sith Art, aka Ain. You're not driving the train, you're the mustache-twirling villain tying innocent people to the tracks. You don't even try to hide your gleeful malice. You're like living cartoon characters, but you stopped being funny 2 seasons ago. And that's one thing too, is so much malice behind this, so much anger, so much distaste, so much wanting to stomp on other people. Just look at that person that I referenced in the last Shad video, the last discussion video, where he said, humans are just maggoty meat puppets, worse, inferior versions of AI, whatever it was, insulting humans, saying, make me care. If you hate people, there's no way that people can make you care. Just like the reason that I use that person's video is because I don't care about the opinion. And I was saying, if this is you, I don't care about your opinion, you're dismissed. Anything that you say is not going to matter because your vision of the future and my vision of the future are completely different. If you hate people and I don't hate people, then there's nothing that we can do to create a common future together. So your opinion doesn't matter to me. And guess what? There's nothing you can say in that category to make your opinion matter to me once I've told you it doesn't matter. It's the same exact argument as you saying, make me care about you when I don't care about you. Make me feel for you when I don't feel for you. You can't. There is no way to reconcile that. Over here with Gary Marcus, a leading expert on AI, spoke at U.S. Senate AI Oversight Subcommittee. He says, when I started working on AI 4 decades ago, it simply didn't occur to me that one of the biggest use cases would be derivative mimicry, transferring value from artists and other creators to mega corporations using massive amounts of energy. This is not the AI that I dreamed for. Over here with Ed Newton-Rex, who is the CEO of Fairly Trained Composer Scout, previously founded Junk Deck and VP Audio at Stability AI, in case you haven't heard. He says, this is a very real danger that the phrase publicly available is used to hide copyright infringement in plain sight. We saw it in Shad's last video, which is also why I covered it there, because he said if you posted anything online ever at any point, you have given up ownership rights. So either keep everything that you create ever in hiding, or give up ownership. It makes me think of this dichotomy of you have to go traditionally published, you have to go through the gatekeepers in order to have their protection, or else you should fail. And that's what this is doing. It's saying either we approve you to post your stuff, to have your stuff published, or you can go indie and then we will claim it anyway and launder it, and then we will still take it from you. So you get no independence. It's corporations trying to create a lose-lose situation where they are constantly in control. He continues by saying, I've seen multiple people use the phrase publicly available to describe training data, and what it often in fact means is just available on the internet but copyrighted. In other words, it is a world away from public domain, but the phrase seems intentionally chosen to confuse, and we constantly have seen that in more recent discussions of generative AI and copyright. Don't be fooled into thinking that publicly available means free of copyright issues. OpenAI declined to say how many videos the system learned from or where they came from, except to say that the training included both publicly available videos and videos that were licensed from copyright holders. The company says that little about the data used to train its technologies, most likely because it wants to maintain an advantage over competitors, but has been sued multiple times for using copyrighted materials. As Dominic Young points out here, the whole point of copyright is to incentivize creators to make their own work publicly available without fear that it and its value will be appropriated by other people. It was never true that the availability of content implied an unrestricted right to exploit it. That was literally why copyright was put in place. Creators and rights holders shouldn't have to guess whether or not their content has been used to train SORA, and so whether or not they should be sued. We need legislation that requires generative AI model data sources to be revealed. This is the only way to start leveling the playing field, which they're not going to willfully do because they know that they are stealing and violating copyright. If legislators can't bring themselves to act quickly on exploitive Gen AI training, we are in a world of trouble. Specifically, there are two things that are needed from legislators globally in the near term. One, require companies to disclose Gen AI models' training data. Hiding it simply as a way to avoid lawsuits. Transparency will start to move the needle toward licensing and fair treatment of creators. Two, clarify how copyright law should be interpreted. We can't wait for the courts. This needs to be clear. There needs to be clarity now. My view is that training Gen AI on copyrighted works without consent is a breach of copyright law in most countries. But both sides of the debate, creators and AI companies, deserve clarity on this. Models like SORA show how urgent this is needed. Now, even with all that, because I don't want this to seem doom and gloom, and I don't want it to seem, I know it can be depressing. Obviously, I've got some things that I'm depressed about. Not this, because honestly, art means so much more to me. It's a self-expression. It's a way of sharing myself. It's not about making money. I would like to be able to just create and focus on creation, but it's not something that I do, and it's not something that I ever think that I will be able to do. So what I really focus on is just creating and sharing, and then hoping that someday I can talk to people about the stuff that I created, because I just love talking about it. It's the same reason that I talk about any of the books that I read. I just love talking about it. And you know, for people to take my characters and be like, I like that character, or that was a good story, or whatever, it means a lot. It's so much more. But it's not about money. So to not leave this on a negative note, seeing a lot of doom and gloom, art is human communication and culture. It will take more than generated content to end art. I create art to be appreciated by others, but the reason that I love creating is for my own self-expression. Art ends if you give up your own voice. And I feel that in my bones. That just gave me shivers, like for real. When I'm talking about characters like Marcella and like Ike and Billy, is I'm creating stories, people that I want to share, expressions. I love so much. Oh my gosh. And getting to collaborate with people, whether it's with Sam or it's with Monty or it's with whoever I hire to like tell about my characters, and then they interpret my characters in a manner to then deliver as art. I think that's why commissioning art feels so much more special, because we're communicating the same story in different ways. It's somebody hearing what I'm saying and then capturing it and then saying it back. And it is such a magical thing to see the things that I see in my head and somebody else saw it and was able to put it into a visual medium. I create and have created for 20 plus years. Since I learned how to write, I have been creating. I have obsessively created. I have been in this mode where, like, as a teenager, I would just look for places to create characters. And, like, obviously, it is a compulsion at this point. We got freaking with playing Yakuza 0 immediately. Well, not immediately. You know, it took us, like, obviously, I had to meet Mashima in order to create my character to go with that. We got freaking Hitomi, and then shortly after that, she worked her way into the story, and then shortly after that, she had a son, and then she had 3 sons, and now there's a whole generation, and now there's Shigemi, and there's Kaede, and there's Michi, and it just keeps growing, because it's about the expression, it's about the inspiration. It's like watching Strange Angel and being like, that Jack Parsons character is so interesting. I like that. I feel an impulse to create, to make something. I hear a person inside of me wanting to come out, and then there is Jan and his love for explosions and his love for beauty, and he sees every moment as just what's in front. He's a YOLO man, that's for sure, because he sees an explosion in Blake and her beauty, and that an explosion is a temporary thing. Everything is temporary, and it's only in front of you for the time that it's in front of you, and you should love it and adore it. I mean, he videos all of his explosions, most of his explosions, and he still watches them above the camera because it's not the same thing. He doesn't want to live behind his camera. He wants to live in the moment. Everything is about expression. And these people don't get it. That's one of the things that I really, really loved about The Origin of the Sky, which if you're looking for a book, if you're looking for a modern fairy tale, pick it up. I think that it is, because it is about how the stories and the places that we come from and the things that we pass on make us who we are. We are made up of the things that we love and the people we love and the histories that we love and what we hear and what we take with us. Every story is a piece of somebody's heart that then sticks with us forever, whether we like it or not. So, maybe I should pick the books I read a little better for that purpose. Over here with Chuck Windig, despite how you feel about it, everybody can say a correct thing every once in a while. I don't like to... ideas are wrong. People as a whole, I don't like to mark off, but they can have bad ideas. The lure of AI entices those people who fetishize ideas but dismiss the work. They're the people who tell writers, I'll give you the idea, then you write it, and we'll split the profits. For them, the vision is everything, and the work is just an annoying obstacle. But the work is everything. The work is how the thing happens, where it is made, where the skill is put, and in my opinion, it's also where your vision, where your voice, where your experiences come from. The work is how you make it different. AI in creativity is for people who have no skill, no work, no effort, no ethics. Kate Loveland, voice actor. Creatives try not to get sucked into a depression spiral. R-E-AI. I know it's hard as hell to do, but I see people already saying clients that drop them to do AI are coming back to them because AI isn't good enough. Midjourney and the rest do have limits, and human consumers hate spam. AI will get misused and abused so fast that people will tune it out, ignore it, or actively hate it within a short amount of time. With continuing backlash against companies, etc., that do use it to quickly become PR kryptonites, so keep creating. This isn't over yet, not at all. And also, to go along with that, Reads with Rachel recently did a video asking her people, her subscribers, how they pick up a book and how they take recommendations. And one of the top things that they said make them ignore a book is that it is generative AI on the cover. So consumers, despite what Shad says, people by and large reject generative AI and see it as low effort. It is only the generative AI bros that say that it's got some sort of value because they want it to give it value and because it gives their ego a boost. But the people who are looking for something human are not picking up generative AI. I have 2 new posts up showing how AI site traffic is down, OpenAI and Midjourney. Also, most of the users for both sites are US based, so they're not gaining international engagement either. This is one of the reasons why it's important to continue talking about this, to raise awareness about the situation, to talk about developments, and as more people see what's going on, of course the snake oil salesmen are going to say that it's working, but in general it's not. Over here with Megan, ECCC. Gen AI is a freaking insult to humanity. Image and video are no longer historical documents. With AI, image will become nothing more than our entire visual history shoved into a meat grinder and served to us for meaningless profit. A craft I've dedicated my entire life to is being replaced by an image predictor slot machine. Image/video will no longer be about sharing stories, sharing our points of view, connecting, or documenting what we spent our time creating. I can't believe one of the most fundamental parts of being a person making and consuming art is being taken away from us. And for what? Why does this technology need to exist? How does this help anyone? Replacing the median. Because people hate humans. Because these people hate humans. Back to Reed Southern. This is what I meant by reanimating the dead, stealing relics, forcing people to exist past what they're allowed, what they should be. So, aside from George Carlin, they're looking to exploit other deceased comedians with AI as well. Absolutely detestable, ghoulish behavior. Hope the YouTube ad revenue covers their legal fees. Might need a Patreon and Clash of Clans to help out. So, over here at Vice, an AI model then painted a picture of a horrifying world where all of your dead favorite comedians are back forever. I might be the first stand-up comic brought back from the dead by AI, but I certainly won't be the last. Richard Pryor, Joan Rivers, Bill Hicks, Robin Williams, Dick Gregory, Andy Kaufman, Mom Mabley, Sam Kinison, it said, as it name checks the dead, grotesque AI-generated versions of their faces flash the screen. This also goes back to Shad's thing about removing opportunities from people that want to learn into the field, to climb up the ladder, to get that skill and become somebody current. You're going to talk about a dead culture while you're an active proponent of bringing back the dead so that the culture can never move forward, so that contemporaries can never be born. Every single one of us, and the art that you love, the art that you adore, the art that you talk about was made by that person at that time from their experiences. And I can see it in things that I create in art. I've been when you see Khan, whenever I actually post an image of Khan, who is an alien character of mine I made when I was 16, you will be able to tell that he was made in the mid 2000s by the stylization of that character. And if I look at the same thing with like everything in Bodymore is very specifically very stylized to the mid 2000s / the early 10s, but mostly the mid 2000s. And I am the only person at this time that could make those characters. And that is the same for every single one of my contemporaries. I respect my peers in the art for this reason. We are the ones that come next. You loved the things of the 70s. You loved the things of the 80s, the things of the 60s, the things of the past that were iconic, because those were the voices of that generation. And right now, the proponents of generative AI are trying to drown out the current voices, the current artists, and the up-and-coming artists who will take the torch passed on by those before them, that will create art that is unique to our time, that is unique to our voices, that is unique to us. It's being drowned out by these greedy people that want to live in the past and live in a culture that just reanimates the dead and never gives the babies a chance, never gives the children, the next generation, a chance. You will live among the dead. And why? Answer that. Over here with M.A. Zavala. Every human has an innate desire to create. Creating artwork is the most human thing that you can do. The products of AI cannot be considered art. Their purpose is to satiate corporate greed and a human desire in all of us while cutting out the most human aspect of the process. Using AI tools with datasets trained on unwilling artists is an insult to yourself. It goes against what makes all of us human to appease shallow attempts of creativity, diluting yourself to capture a flicker of the creative fire burning in everyone's hearts except your own. Eric Bordages, I'm sorry for any mispronunciations, my guys. AI fans need perspective. Ask people what do they think of AI deepfake videos, voices, and images. Ask what they think about art, music, and stories created absent of human touch. Ask if they enjoy their data, their identities, families, friends, labors being taken and used without consent. This makes me wonder, so the people that are all in on this, why do they like Star Wars then? Why did they like anything created in the last 40 years? Because it doesn't have any of this stuff. And I'm told, based on Shad's thing, that you can't really have a good thing unless it's with a talented person and an AI. Everything is inferior. Right? Like what? I do think that a part of this is so much identity is put into this. Not only that, but the idea of the culture war. So people have painted themselves in a color of red versus blue, whatever that means. And so then saying that you're wrong, admitting you're wrong has now become such a deep thing that it's difficult to admit to being wrong. It'll be a personal insult. Finally, with Kyle Setso, the more the AI stuff goes on, the more I think that we need to have more of the arts into education, which is true. I think people have forgotten what the arts are. Some part of me refuses to believe that even cynical money-seeking poopheads would be so flippant with things like art that they found something they genuinely love beyond superficiality. Sadly, education is seen more as a means to produce workers than it is to produce a well-rounded, decent person who understands the world and themselves. It's sad. So what is the purpose of art? This is something that I wanted to talk about for a while, and I don't know if I will in this video, so maybe this will just be an allusion to what's coming in the future as I talk about art versus product and how this takes place, because I do think that we are missing a level of art appreciation. But this video is getting long enough, so take that as what's to come eventually with a bit of a art discussion. Now, I am not going to say that I know everything about art and what defines art or how to talk about art, but I do want to bring the conversation up. And I know that there are a lot of artists in the comments that maybe will find the video and help to have the discussion of what is art and what is product and how are these things different and what helps with art appreciation. And so I want to invite people to share their perspectives and what they know and to exchange in that information and to help educate. Because I think a lot of this is we're missing the human element. And that's what happens when you get into war. You dehumanize the enemy so that you can conquer them. But this shouldn't be about that. Art should never be about that. Art is about bringing people of different backgrounds, of different cultures, of different things together through commonality and humanity. And so I think that's one of the most dangerous things of what's happened and what is happening with the generative AI conversation. Anyway, that is the update for current things and things that I have seen. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I know that there has been a lot of it, but I felt like it was particularly important to talk about all of these different things, even if it was kind of just a touchstone on most of them. There will be more by the time this video goes up, obviously, because SORA kind of just hit, and I'm sorry that I didn't super talk about SORA. It is fairly new in coming out, so there's not a lot of information on it, and I don't want to make any claims about it while it is still new. I wanted to bring it to the attention that this is a new development in this. I mean, it's the same with what we've been seeing, but it's still, I wanted to bring it up, and we'll see where that goes from here. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Looking forward to your thoughts. Have a great weekend. Keep creating, and don't die.
The only people who should come are those who want to meet their monsters.
If this is what Agatha wants, I don't know how we can even dispute it.
I change lives, baby.
And I end them. Sweetheart, no bargains hold. Only fools know restraint.
Only losers lose!
I've been under the knife so many times, I'm practically immune to it.
If your scissors are dull, may I recommend sharpening them with leather?
I think I hit you.
Mimal says I must have a guardian angel.
To enter the ring but abstain from playing is suicidal. Your virtue makes you nothing but a liability.
You're gonna die. You're gonna die. You're gonna die.